Ethan lived alone in a small wooden house near the forest. And most of his mornings were quiet, slow, and predictable. But this morning felt different from the moment he opened his eyes, and he did not know why. The wind pushed through the trees harder than usual, and the creek behind his home made a strange, soft humming sound, as if something was moving inside it. Ethan stepped outside with a cup of warm coffee, planning to check the water pump that often got clogged with leaves. He did not expect anything unusual. He only wanted to fix the pump and return to his peaceful, simple morning. But when he reached the creek, he heard something that made him stop walking. It was not the normal sound of water flowing. It was softer, almost musical, almost like a voice hidden inside the water itself. Ethan frowned and moved closer slowly, trying not to make noise. He thought maybe a deer had come to drink, or maybe a wild animal was stuck in the water. But when he reached the large tree that stood beside the creek, he froze completely. His heart jumped. His breath caught in his throat. Because there, in the middle of the creek, a woman was standing in the water. But she was no human woman. Her skin glowed faintly like moonlight trapped under glass. Her hair floated around her shoulders like soft white fire. And when she raised her hand to brush her hair back, Ethan noticed strange silver marks that moved across her skin as if they were alive. He had never seen anything like her. Not in movies. Not in stories. Not even in dreams. Ethan slowly hid behind the tree, too shocked to move. He knew strangers sometimes crossed through the forest, but this felt unreal. The woman looked peaceful as she bathed in the water. But the air around her shimmered strangely, like heat rising from desert sand. Ethan could not stop staring. Something about her face pulled him in, calm yet powerful, gentle yet dangerous. She closed her eyes and let the water fall from her hands in glowing drops. It was beautiful. It was terrifying. Then she stopped. Her eyes opened very slowly, and she looked directly toward the tree where Ethan was hiding. Ethan's heart hammered. He did not even breathe. How could she sense him? He had made no sound, no movement. He stepped back carefully, trying to stay hidden, but his boot landed on a dry branch. It snapped loudly under his foot. The woman instantly turned her head, fully toward him. Her eyes changed color in one blink: blue, too gold, too deep black. Ethan felt the air tighten around him. Her glowing marks brightened. The water around her rippled outward in a sharp wave, as if something inside her answered the sound he made. Ethan tried to think. Should he run? Should he speak? Should he hide better? But his body refused to move. The woman stepped closer to the bank, water running down her glowing skin. She was taller than he expected, almost as tall as the door of his home. Her beauty was strange, unnatural, overwhelming. Ethan wanted to look away, but he couldn't. She raised her hand slowly. The water followed her movement, rising like a thin ribbon around her arm. Ethan gulped. What was she? A traveler? A creature? A threat? He could not tell. The forest felt silent now. Even the birds had stopped singing. The woman whispered something. The word was soft, shaking, carried by a language he did not understand. But even without knowing the meaning, Ethan could feel the fear inside her voice. She was afraid. Afraid of him. Afraid of being seen. Afraid of being found. Then, in one sudden moment, she disappeared underwater. Ethan leaned forward, confused. A second later, she appeared behind him. He almost screamed. She stood only one step away, her breath cold against his neck. Water dripped from her hair onto his shoulder. Ethan turned slowly, his hands shaking. The alien woman looked at him with eyes now shining bright gold. She touched his arm gently with one glowing fingertip. The touch was soft, but it burned like ice. A small symbol appeared on his skin, glowing faintly. Her voice came out as a whisper, broken and afraid. Do not scream. And do not run. Ethan swallowed hard. He wanted to speak, but his voice refused to come. The woman looked around, her eyes scanning the forest like someone being hunted. Then she leaned closer and whispered again, "They are coming." Ethan felt a shiver crawl across his spine. Who was coming? Why was she marked with fear? And why had she marked him too? The morning air turned cold. The forest turned silent. And Ethan realized his simple life was already gone. Ethan stood frozen, unsure if he was awake or stuck inside a strange dream he could not escape. The glowing mark on his arm pulsed softly, giving off a pale light that made his skin look like it belonged to someone else. The alien woman did not blink. She stared at him like she was trying to read his soul, her golden eyes sharp and frightened at the same time. Ethan felt as if the whole forest was holding its breath. He tried to speak, but the words tangled inside his throat. Finally, he managed a shaky whisper. Who are you?" The woman stepped back, water dripping from her silver-glowing skin. She looked around the trees instead of answering him. Her fingers trembled slightly as she scanned the forest like she expected something to jump out any second. Ethan's heart beat faster. The mark on his arm grew brighter, reacting to her fear. She nodded at the mark, then looked at him with a serious, urgent expression. "You should not have seen me," she whispered. "Now they will follow you too." Ethan blinked. "Follow me? Who?" She hesitated, as if saying the name might make danger appear right away. "Hunters," she said finally. "Shadows that wear the faces of others. They cross the stars for me. They will kill anything near me." Ethan stepped back instinctively. His boots hit the grass, and small drops of water fell from her hair onto the ground. Her face softened for a moment as she saw fear in his eyes. She reached toward his marked arm with slow, careful fingers. "That mark will keep you alive," she said quietly. "As long as you do not run from me." Ethan swallowed hard. "Why me? Why did you mark me?" She looked away. "Because you saw me. Because you did not scream. Because fate touched you before I did." Her words made no sense, yet the tone in her voice felt painfully real. Ethan looked into the forest. The wind blew sharply through the branches, making them shake like something was moving inside them. A deep feeling of danger crept under Ethan's skin. "What do these hunters want from you?" he asked. The alien woman closed her eyes for a long moment. When she opened them again, her golden irises dimmed into soft blue, like she was letting down a piece of her guard. "They want my blood," she whispered. "My power. My life. And now they will smell you too." Ethan felt cold all over. 1,000 questions stormed through his mind, but the forest suddenly felt too quiet, too empty. Even the creek behind them was silent. No flowing sound. No birds. Nothing. "They are near," she whispered. Barely moving her lips, Ethan took a step closer to her, not out of courage, but out of instinct. Something about her fear felt honest, almost childlike under her glowing beauty. For a moment, she stared at Ethan as if surprised he didn't run. You are staying?" she asked softly. "I don't know what's happening," Ethan said, voice shaking, "but I'm not leaving you alone." Her lips parted slightly, as if she had never heard such words before. A tiny flicker of warmth appeared in her eyes. But before she could speak, a sudden noise cracked through the forest, a heavy branch snapping somewhere deep between the trees. Ethan jumped. She grabbed his wrist. Inside, she whispered sharply. Now, she pulled him toward his house with a speed that made his boots slide on the dirt. Ethan stumbled, but kept up as best he could. Her grip was cold, but strong enough to pull a grown man without effort as they reached his wooden porch. Ethan turned back toward the forest. A pair of red lights flickered between the trees-like eyes, watching them. The alien woman saw them too. Her face tightened. They found my scent. Ethan hurried inside, and she pushed the door shut behind them. She moved silently, carefully, eyes scanning every shadow in his living room. Ethan watched her with wide eyes. Her glowing marks faded slowly as she calmed herself. "You must listen," she said, standing close to him. "If they come here tonight, do not try to fight them. Do not speak to them. They can pretend to be anything you trust, anyone." Ethan felt his stomach twist. "Anyone?" She nodded. "Even people you lost." The room grew colder. Ethan looked at the mark on his arm again. It pulsed with a steady rhythm, like a second heartbeat. The alien woman touched it lightly with her glowing fingers. "This bond will protect you," she whispered. "But only if you stay beside me." Ethan exhaled slowly. The world he knew was gone. The quiet forest, the peaceful mornings. The simple life fall shattered by one moment at the creek. He looked at her. Fear mixed with something else. Curiosity, worry, connection. "What's your name?" Ethan finally asked. She hesitated, then whispered it like a secret carried by the wind. "Liara?" The forest outside creaked again in the distance. Something was coming, and Ethan had no idea what waited in the shadows. Night fell over Ethan's land like a heavy blanket, darker and colder than any night he remembered. Usually, crickets would chirp, frogs would croak near the creek, and the wind would carry soft sounds from deep inside the forest. But tonight, everything was silent. Too silent. The kind of silence that makes a person feel watched even when they are alone. Ethan sat inside his living room with the oil lamp glowing softly beside him. But his eyes were fixed on the window. Liara stood in the corner, her glowing marks dimmed almost to nothing. She kept her back straight, her eyes focused on every shadow. She did not blink much. She looked like a warrior waiting for an attack. Ethan felt tension growing in the room. "Are they really coming?" he whispered. Liara didn't look at him. "They always come," she said quietly. "They smell my energy. They hear my thoughts. They hunt until they catch what they want." Her voice carried exhaustion, like she had been running for a long time, maybe days, maybe months. Ethan crossed his arms to hide his shaking. "Why are they after you?" Liara finally turned her head. Her face was calm but tired, as if she was carrying a heavy secret. "Because I was born with a gift that only my people have. A light inside the blood. It can heal. It can destroy. It can control life." She paused. "And others want to steal it." Ethan stared at her, surprised. "You're some kind of royal." Liara looked away. "A prisoner with a crown," she whispered. Nothing more. Before Ethan could ask anything else, a soft thump echoed outside the window. Ethan stiffened. Lyra's eyes flashed gold instantly. She placed a finger to her lips, telling him not to make a sound. Another thump. Then another. Something was walking around Ethan's house. Ethan slowly reached for the old hunting rifle he kept behind his chair. Liara shook her head sharply. "No guns," she whispered. "Bullets do nothing to them. They wear bodies like clothes." Ethan didn't understand, but he trusted her. He placed the rifle quietly on the table. The window glass trembled. Then, a voice called out, "Ethan, is that you?" Ethan's heart nearly stopped. The voice was familiar. Too familiar, it was his father's voice. But his father had been dead for 6 years. Ethan stepped back, shaking. No, that's impossible." Liara grabbed his arm firmly. "Do not listen," she whispered. "They search through your memories. They steal voices. They imitate what you love. They do this to break you." Ethan's legs weakened. The voice outside the window spoke again. Softer, sadder. Son. Open the door. Ethan squeezed his eyes shut, fighting the urge to answer. Memories of his father rushed into his mind, his laughter, his advice, his warm smile. It felt too real. Too painful. Liara stepped in front of Ethan, her glowing marks brightening slightly as she faced the window like a shield. A long, pale hand pressed against the glass from outside. Too thin, too long. Too wrong. Ethan felt sick. Liara. What are they? He whispered. Lyra's voice was low. Shifters. They swallow the forms of others. They change shape. They borrow memories. They drink the fear of their prey. The hand on the glass bent unnaturally, pressing harder, testing the window. The voice outside turned sharper. Ethan. Open. Ethan stepped behind Liara, gripping the edge of a chair to keep from falling. The mark on his arm glowed brighter, reacting to danger. Liara lifted her hand slowly, and a faint ripple of light formed in her palm, dancing like a small flame. They know I'm inside, she said, but they fear my mark too. They fear what I can become. Something scratched the wooden wall outside, long claws dragging slowly, like someone spelling a message. Scratch, scratch, scratch. Ethan couldn't control his breath. They're going around the house, he whispered. Liara nodded. They are surrounding us. Then she did something Ethan did not expect. She took his arm gently and guided him toward the back door. We cannot stay here. The walls are thin. They will come through. Ethan stared at her in shock. Go outside. Are you crazy? Liara leaned closer, her glowing eyes fierce. Inside this house, you will die. Outside, we can hide. Move now. She opened the back door silently. Cold air rushed in. The forest looked darker than the sky, filled with shadows that seemed to move. Ethan swallowed hard but followed her. Her hand stayed on his wrist, steadying him as they stepped into the night. A heavy growl came from the left side of the house. Something massive moved in the darkness. Something that breathed too heavily, too slowly, like a great animal waiting to pounce. Ethan shivered. Liara, what if they see us? Liara tightened her grip. They already have. A pair of red glowing eyes opened in the bushes ahead of them. A low, deep snarl filled the forest. And Ethan realized this night was only the beginning. The glowing red eyes in the bushes did not blink. They stared at Ethan and Liara with slow, hungry focus, like a predator studying weak prey. Ethan felt every muscle in his body tighten. The forest seemed to sink into deeper darkness, swallowing all light except the faint glow from Lyra's markings. The creature in the bushes stepped forward. At first, Ethan thought it was a large animal, maybe a wolf or a bear. But then it stood upright. Its body stretched unnaturally tall, bones cracking as if reshaping. Its arms grew longer with soft tearing sounds, and its fingers stretched into long, curved claws. The air filled with the smell of damp earth and old metal. Ethan stepped back. Liara stepped forward. Do not look into its eyes, she whispered. The creature hissed, and its face twisted into something that did not belong in any world Ethan knew. Its mouth opened far too wide, revealing rows of sharp, uneven teeth. The red eyes flickered, shifting briefly into the bright blue eyes of Ethan's father. Ethan's breath caught. It was trying to break him again. Liara saw his reaction. She reached back and grabbed his hand tightly. Remember, she whispered, it only copies what it thinks will weaken you. Ethan nodded, though his legs shook. How do we fight it? Liara raised her free hand, and the faint ripple of light from earlier grew stronger, brighter. We survive, she said. Nothing more. The creature lunged. Liara pushed Ethan aside just in time. He fell onto the grass as the creature swiped at where he had stood a second earlier. Its claws ripped through the air with a sound like tearing metal. Liara spun backward, landing gracefully on her feet. The symbol on Ethan's arm glowed brighter, pulsing like a heartbeat. The creature turned toward Ethan, its neck twisted unnaturally, rotating all the way around. Its face changed shape, over and over becoming Ethan's mother. Then his childhood friend, then an old neighbor. Then a stranger with no face at all. Ethan felt sick. Liara lifted her hand, and a flash of blue light shot out. The beam hit the creature in the chest, sending it stumbling back into a tree. Smoke rose from its skin. The creature screeched, a sound sharp enough to make Ethan cover his ears. Liara stepped backward. "Breathing hard, they are stronger tonight," she whispered. The creature pushed itself up, bones cracking loudly. A deep, rattling growl came from inside its chest. It crawled toward them, faster now, angrier. "Ethan, behind me," Liara said sharply. But Ethan didn't listen fully because another noise came from his right. A rustle, a low moan. A second creature stepped out of the shadows, then a third, then a fourth. The forest floor crawled with shifting shapes. Ethan's voice shook. "Liara, there are too many." Lyra's eyes widened. She took a deep breath, then lifted both hands. Her markings glowed bright white. The air around her vibrated with energy. Ethan felt warmth around his chest as her power pushed against him. The first creature leaped at them. Liara slammed her hands forward. A shockwave burst from her palms, blasting the creature into the trees. But the others were already moving. One crawled on all fours like a spider, skittering across the ground. Another grew extra limbs, changing shape as it ran. Ethan grabbed a fallen branch, the only weapon he had. His hands shook, but he stood ready. He didn't want to leave her alone. One creature lunged toward Ethan. He swung the branch with all his strength. It hit the creature's jaw, snapping its head sideways. But the creature only hissed and kept crawling. Ethan backed up fast. His heart hammered. He hit it again, harder, and this time Liara appeared beside him, her hand glowing. She touched the creature's forehead. It turned to dust in seconds. Ethan stared in disbelief. "How?" "I told you," she said, panting. "I can destroy, but not forever. My energy is limited." More creatures circled them, closing in slowly, their red eyes glowing like floating embers. Liara grabbed Ethan's wrist tightly. "We need higher ground." She pulled him toward the hill behind his house. The creatures followed, moving with jerky, unnatural motions. Ethan and Liara ran through the forest, dodging branches and roots. The ground shook as something large crashed behind them. When they reached the top of the hill, Ethan stopped to catch his breath. But Liara didn't rest. She raised her hands again, forming a protective barrier of light around them. The creature slammed into it, claws scraping the glowing shield. Liara trembled. The barrier flickered. "Liara," Ethan said, stepping close, "you're shaking." "My power." "I used too much." Her voice cracked. "I can't hold it long." The creature smashed harder. The barrier cracked like thin glass. Ethan looked at Liara. For the first time, she looked scared not of the creatures, but of failing Liara. Ethan whispered, "What happens if the barrier breaks?" She looked at him with tired blue eyes. "Then they will tear us apart." A large creature leaped high into the air, slamming down on the barrier with full force. The shield shattered like broken ice. The creatures charged forward, and Ethan realized the real battle was just beginning. The moment the barrier shattered, Ethan felt the cold forest air rush against his face like a slap. The creatures leaped forward, their twisted bodies glowing faint red as they charged. Ethan instinctively stepped in front of Liara, even though he knew he couldn't fight them. His hands shook, his chest hurt from fear. But something inside him refused to leave her side. Liara stared at the broken pieces of light floating in the air around them. Her breathing was fast, shallow, like someone running out of time. Ethan touched her arm. "Liara, what do we do now?" She didn't answer right away. Instead, she looked at him with a strange expression, half pain, half determination. Her glowing markings flickered weakly. She closed her eyes and whispered something in her own language. The wind shifted suddenly. The trees leaned inward as if listening. The creatures surrounded them, crawling on all fours, their bodies stretching and twisting like shadows trying to become solid. Their red eyes glowed brighter. One creature lunged. Ethan swung the broken branch he still held, but this time the creature slapped it away effortlessly. Ethan stumbled back and fell to the ground. The creature jumped at him and froze mid-air. A bright white light burst from behind Ethan, turning the forest floor silver. The creature shrieked and twisted backward in pain. Ethan shielded his eyes, and turned. Liara was glowing. Not faintly. Not weakly, blindingly. Her markings spread across her skin like white fire. Her hair lifted into the air as if held by invisible hands. The ground beneath her cracked, glowing lines spreading in a circle. "Stay back," she whispered. Her voice echoing strangely two voices at once. Ethan crawled backward as the air around Liara shimmered like heat. The creatures hissed, stepping away. Their bodies shook. Their shapes flickered. Liara opened her eyes. They were no longer blue, no longer gold. They were pure white. "Liara, what's happening?" Ethan asked, breathless. She did not look at him. Her voice sounded deeper, ancient. "You wish to know what I truly am." The creatures lunged again, desperate and angry. Liara raised her hand. A beam of white energy exploded outward like lightning, hitting three creatures at once. They disintegrated instantly, turning to dust before they touched the ground. Ethan stared with wide eyes. You can do that." Lyra's body lifted slightly off the ground. Wings made of pure light folded from her back. They were not feathery like a bird's wings. They were sharp, glowing, shaped from energy itself, stretching wider than Ethan was tall. They hummed like distant thunder. The forest reacted. Leaves rose around them. The wind spiraled. The creatures stumbled backward, snarling, confused. Liara finally turned toward Ethan. Her expression softened for one small moment. "This is the form I swore never to use again." "Why?" Ethan whispered. "Because it kills me," she said quietly. "Every time." Before Ethan could answer, a giant creature larger than the rest merged from the shadows. Its arms were long enough to reach the ground. Its shoulders bent unnaturally. Its head changed shape with every step, cycling through human faces, animal skulls, and blank, empty flesh. Ethan felt his stomach twist. "What is that?" Lyra's glowing wings folded closer to her body as she prepared for battle. "The leader," she said. "He follows me from world to world." The creature roared, shaking the trees. The ground vibrated under Ethan's hands. It charged at them, fast and powerful. Liara flew forward with incredible speed, slamming into it with a blast of white energy. The explosion lit up the whole hill. The creature stumbled but didn't fall. It swung its massive arm at her. Liara dodged, but the shockwave of its strike sent her spinning. Ethan watched in horror as she crashed into the ground, creating a crater. "Liara!" he shouted. She pushed herself up slowly. Blood silver and glowing dripped from her nose. Her wings flickered like damaged lights. She forced herself to stand. "I cannot hold this form long," she whispered. The creature charged again. "Ethan." Without thinking, grabbed a fallen piece of the glowing barrier still on the ground, a shard of Liara's own energy. It hummed in his hand. He stepped in front of Liara. The creature raised its claw to kill him. Ethan didn't move. Liara screamed his name. A sudden pulse of light exploded from Ethan's marked arm. The glow spread across his chest, forming a second symbol. The creature froze. Liara froze. Ethan felt heat spread through his body, but it didn't hurt. It felt like someone had switched on a light inside him. Liara whispered, stunned, "Ethan, your mark." It awakened. The creature stumbled back, confused, growling. Ethan looked at his glowing arm, breathing hard. "What does that mean?" Liara stared at him like she was seeing him for the first time. "It means," she said softly, "you are no longer human alone." The giant creature roared again. The battle was far from over. Ethan stared at the glowing mark spreading across his chest like living light. It pulsed with a rhythm that did not feel human. It felt deeper, older, connected to something inside Liara. The giant creature backed away from him, snarling with confusion, as if it sensed danger where there was none before. Liara rose slowly from the ground, her glowing wings shaking. She looked exhausted, too exhausted. The silver blood on her cheek shimmered under the moonlight. Her eyes locked onto Ethan, filled with shock and fear. "Ethan," she whispered, "you must run. Right now, go." Ethan shook his head. "I'm not leaving you." "You don't understand," she said, stepping toward him, voice trembling. "The Shifter King will kill me, but you still have a chance to survive." But Ethan didn't move. He tightened his grip around the glowing shard of broken energy he still held. It hummed inside his hand, responding to his heartbeat. "No," he said quietly. "I'm staying." Lyra's wings flickered dangerously. "Ethan, you are human. You are fragile. You cannot fight him. Please listen to me for once." Ethan stepped closer to her instead. "You saved my life. More than once. And you think I'll run now?" Liara looked away, her voice breaking. "I don't want to watch you die." Ethan swallowed hard. "And I don't want to watch you die either." Before she could speak, the Shifter King let out a growl so deep it shook the ground beneath them. It hunched low, its limbs bending like broken branches. Its skin rippled and changed, forming hundreds of faces, men, women, old, young, every memory it stole. From its victims, Ethan felt a cold dread crawl through his stomach. The creature was showing him the souls it had eaten. Liara spread her wings weakly, forcing herself forward. "Stay behind me," she whispered. "No." Ethan said again. The creature roared and charged. Ethan placed himself directly beside Liara, not behind her. She turned sharply in shock, but it was too late. The creature reached them. Liara shot a beam of white energy, hitting its chest. The King Shifter stumbled but didn't fall. It swung its massive arm. Ethan braced himself for impact, but something impossible happened when the creature's claw hit Ethan's chest. The glowing symbol on his skin reacted. There was a blast of light, bright, warm, powerful. The creature howled and jerked its arm back as if burned. Ethan stared at his chest in disbelief. "Liara, what is happening to me?" Liara stared too, eyes wide. "Your body. It's answering my power. You are merging with it." "I don't want power," Ethan said. "I just want you alive." Her eyes softened for a second, but the Shifter King snarled again, furious now. It rushed at them a second time. Liara tried to take flight, but her wings glitched like broken lights. Ethan stepped forward to protect her, raising the glowing shard like a blade. The creature swung an arm toward Ethan. Ethan thrust the shard forward. The shard struck the creature's forearm, cutting through its skin. Instead of blood, black smoke poured out. The creature shrieked. Ethan's arm shook with the force of impact, but he did not drop the shard. Liara gasped. "Ethan, how did you do that?" "I don't know," he shouted, "but I'm not stopping." The creature stumbled backward, howling with pain. Its body warped and twisted. It was healing, but slowly. Liara grabbed Ethan's shoulder urgently. "Listen to me. If you stay here, you will die. The king is too strong. Even in my full form, I cannot destroy him alone." Ethan turned to her, breathing hard. "Then you're not alone." Lyra's voice trembled. "Why? Why risk your life for me? I'm not even from your world." Ethan stared at her glowing face, her trembling wings, the fear she tried to hide. "Because you're not a monster," he said softly. "Because you didn't let me die. Because you're standing here hurt and still trying to save me." Liara blinked slowly. For the first time since he met her, her expression changed, not fear, not anger, but something quieter. Something warm. "You are strange, Ethan," she whispered. "No human would choose this." Ethan smiled weakly. "I guess I'm not a very smart human." The Shifter King roared again, interrupting the moment. Its body swelled larger, its bones cracking as it transformed into a massive shadow-like beast. It towered above the trees now, its mouth stretching across its entire face. Ethan felt fear rise, but he did not step back. Liara stepped beside him. "You truly will not run?" she asked softly. "No," Ethan said, gripping the glowing shard. "Not today. Not ever." Liara slowly placed her hand on Ethan's glowing mark. Her skin sparked against his. Their lights merged for a moment, her white glow mixing with his new, golden shine. The forest vibrate. The air pulsed. Liara whispered. "Then we fight together." The Shifter King charged one final time, manned Ethan and Liara. Stood their ground, side by side. The Shifter King charged with a roar that shook the earth like thunder. Trees bent under the force of its steps. Shadows twisted around its massive body as it moved, swallowing moonlight and throwing darkness in every direction. Ethan felt the ground crack beneath his feet, but he stayed where he stood right beside Liara. Liara's wings lifted behind her, trembling but bright. Ethan's chest glowed with the golden symbol, stronger than before. Their light mixed in the air, swirling in a pattern neither of them had seen before. The energy between them hummed like a heartbeat. The creature swung its giant arm at them. Ethan raised the glowing shard. Liara raised her hand. Their lights collided with the creature. At the same moment, the blast exploded like a small sun. The shockwave pushed the trees back, ripped leaves into the air, and sent smaller shifters flying into the forest with piercing screams. Ethan staggered but stayed standing. Liara floated a few inches off the ground, her glowing wings stretching wider. The Shifter King stumbled, dropping onto one knee. Smoke rose from its body. Its form flickered like a broken shadow. Ethan gasped for breath. Did we stop it?" Liara shook her head weakly. "Not yet." The creature rose again, slower but angrier. It opened its mouth, and a deep, echoing voice came out. Dozens of voices blended together. Stolen voices from other lives. "Give her to us." Ethan stepped forward. "Over my dead body." Liara reached for him. "Ethan." But Ethan walked ahead anyway. He held the glowing shard tightly, his arm shaking but steady. "You're not taking her." "Ha," he said, voice trembling but brave. "Not while I'm alive. Not while she's mine to protect." Liara froze. No one had ever said those words for her. The creature lunged again, this time faster. Ethan raised the shard, but the force of the attack knocked him backward. He hit the ground hard. The shard flew from his hand, landing several feet away. The creature reached for him, claws stretching, shadow body bending. Liara screamed his name and flew forward with all the power she had left. She slammed into the creature's chest with a bright flash. The monster reeled back, howling in pain. But the impact drained her. Her wings flickered. Her knees gave out, and she fell beside Ethan. "Liara," he cried, pulling her into his arms. Her glowing markings dimmed rapidly. "I am losing my form." "No," Ethan whispered, shaking his head. "Stay with me." The creature stood again. Smoke leaked from its body, but it kept moving. It dragged its claws toward them slowly, like a nightmare walking through fog. Liara placed a hand on Ethan's cheek. Her fingers were cold. "I never wanted you in this fight," she whispered. "But fate sent you to the water when I needed someone most." Ethan held her tightly. "Don't talk like that. You're not dying. We're ending this together." Liara's wings, barely glowing now, trembled. "You cannot kill the king. He exists in many shapes, many shadows. Only one thing can destroy him." "What?" Ethan asked desperately. She looked at him with soft white eyes. Pure connection, pure bond. Light shared willingly. Ethan frowned. "What does that mean?" Liara placed her palm on his glowing symbol. "Our energy merged without force, without fear. That is a power he cannot copy, cannot break." The Shifter King roared, raising its massive claw to crush them both. Liara leaned her forehead against Ethan's. "Trust me," she whispered. "I do," Ethan said without hesitation. Their glowing marks exploded with light. A wave of gold and white burst outward, filling the forest like a rising sun. The Shifter King froze mid-strike. Its body cracked like old stone. Shadow peeled off it in layers, burning away in the light. Ethan and Liara held onto each other as the light grew brighter. Brighter, brighter, and then silence. The creature was gone. Nothing but ash drifted in the air. The night slowly returned. Crickets chirped again. The wind moved gently through the trees. Ethan looked down. Liara was still in his arms, her wings fading away, her markings soft like moonlight on water. "You did it," Ethan whispered. "No," Liara said weakly. "We did." Her hand slid across his cheek. "Ethan, humans are strange. You saw me when I was a danger. You stayed when you should have run. You shared your life when you had nothing to gain. That changed me." Ethan smiled softly. "Your face changed me first." Liara laughed a tired, gentle sound. "Then our fates are tied." Her markings flickered one last time. "Will you leave?" Ethan asked quietly. Liara closed her eyes. "I came to your creek to hide. But now I stay for another reason." She opened her glowing blue eyes and whispered, "For you." The first morning light touched the trees. The creek behind Ethan's home shimmered faintly, as if remembering the moment they met. Their worlds were different. Their lives were impossible. But the forest knew one truth. Ethan and Liara were no longer alone.